Hi everyone, and I'm Jason, a student of VIT University Vellore. So in these slides, I'm going to be explaining about Java inheritance, the various types of inheritance and examples and programs related to it. So first, let me move on to the content. So these are the contents that we'll be discussing. We'll be going from the topics and subdividing it into the various classes and types, and then we'll be going into the programs demonstration of inheritance, and we'll be looking at limitations and the advantages and disadvantages of inheritance. So why we need inheritance in the first place? First of all, we are living in a very fast growing environment. The world represents almost every real life objects are needed to be represented in virtual, also in digital manner also. So inheritance is one of the main concepts that has revolutionized coding and bringing a major effect in features of object-oriented programming paradigms, and it establishes a link between two classes. So classes are another important topics in related to the field of programming. So to bring about the properties and a relationship between two classes, we need inheritance, and it permits sharing and accessing properties from one classes to another. So this helps in bringing about redundancy and using the same codes once again and again, so that by saving so much of time, energy and manpower. And it's also the keyword extend is used in order to implement the concept of inheritance. So the keyword used for inheritance is extends in Java. So let's see the category of classes on the base of inheritance. So basically there'll be a superclass, there'll be intermediate classes, there can be any number of intermediate classes, and there'll be a child class. And child class will be able to have the properties of all the properties that are in classes in like class B. It can be any other intermediate class. There can be n number of intermediate classes, and these classes will be able to inherit the properties of class A. And this is the basic topology or basic outline of an inheritance. Next, the relationship between classes. As I was telling about it in the previous slide, the intermediate will be able to access the parent class, and the parent class will be sharing its properties to the derived classes, and child class, as same as intermediate class, will be able to access the properties of all the classes that are above it, and all these classes properties are inheritance as it goes down to the child classes. So now basically, what is a superclass? As we seen, this is a parent class, or it can also be a superclass, is a topmost classes, and it is the service provider. Its properties are accessed by all the lower classes, and it is a main class that is used as the parent class of the main class. So that's why it's given the name superclass, as it is the service provider. It is the origin of all the properties. Next, we have intermediate classes, usually located in between the child class and superclass. It has a dual policy. It will be able to obtain properties of upper class and as well transfer the properties to lower classes. So child class is the most bottom class. It is most benefited class, and most of the functions are done in the child class. So properties of child class as well as parent class can be accessed by the objects of child class. So when we are creating an object in child class, you can access through these objects, you'll be able to access the properties and the function methods of parent class as well as intermediate class and as well as child class. So let's come to the type of inheritance we have in Java. We have basically three: single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, and hierarchical inheritance. Single inheritance is very simple. There will be a parent class and there will be a child class, having only one parent class and one child class. Child class is authorized to access the properties of parent class. So basically this will be a syntax: a super class or a parent class, and there will be a class B extends A, and in these dotted lines you can have various functions and properties declared in it, and you can have the properties also declared in class A, whose properties will be inherited to the class B. Next, we will come to multi-level inheritance. It's a standard structure of single inheritance having one parent, one or more intermediate classes, and one child class. Child class is authorized to access the property of parent class as well as the intermediate classes. So as you can see, class D, we have a class A parent class and a class B, which is extending class A, which means it is able to inherit the properties of class A and can also use its own properties of class B. And as you can see, class C, it's also able, it's class C extends B, which means it's also able to have the properties of class B as well as class A. So that's how we come to multi-level inheritance. It's like in a leveled order. And finally the child class D extends class C, which means all the objects here will be able to access the properties of all the classes that's above it, and all these properties are inherited towards as it goes to lower classes. So class A's inheritance of properties will be accessible to all the lower classes too. A hierarchical inheritance is like having one parent and more child classes. So that'll be basically more child classes. There'll be child class will be the intermediate classes in these cases. So there'll be n number of child classes inheriting its properties from basically one parent class. So child classes must be connected with only one parent class. So as you can see, a class A, a parent class is declared. Class B extends A, which means class B will be able to access the properties of class A, and class C extends class A, which means the class C won't have the ability or the access to get the properties of class B. Only its access will be available to class A, and class A's properties will be inherited to all the classes below it, but all the lower classes will be able to access only the properties of class A. So there will be n number of child classes, which will be the intermediate classes, which is not the case in the previous cases of inheritance, where we can see the intermediate classes and then there is child class. So another indirect mechanism of inheritance is just an optional or extra knowledge in the case of inheritance is interfaces. So Java supports a special feature called interface. This helps to connect a class with more than one classes. So interface A, interface B. So with one class you will be able to access more than one classes above, or it can be declared anywhere, and you'll be able to access all the classes. Feature that helps one class connect with more than one class. So for this type of connectivity we use a keyword called implements. And next we'll come to the limitations. So link is established in only one direction. You will be able to access the properties, but parents class cannot access the properties of child class. So Java does not support multi-level inheritance as well as hybrid inheritance. The extend keyword permits to connect a class with only one class. So as you can see in this case, it will be only able to connect with one class. Class B extends class A. So that's where the use of interface comes in, where you can use one class and get the properties of more than one classes to it. So that's one limitation, to connect a class with only one class. In interface, properties are only declared as it but never defined. Next, let's see a program or a demonstration of inheritance in Java. So at first I have an example for single inheritance. So first I have declared a class animal. So animal is a very large kingdom. So under the case of animals we have dogs, which are subclasses of which is a subclass of the class animal. So here I have a function called eat declared in class animal, and the class dog which is inheriting the properties of class animal, and I have a function declared in that too. So here I am declaring object of the function class dog and d.bark, which will be able to access this function, and with the same object of class dog I am able to access the function or the properties of class animal. So that is single inheritance, and let me run and show you how. So as you can see, the class d.bark was able to get captured and use it and use the function, while that's why we are able to see the print function working. And next we have the d.eat, which is basically the object of class D, that is which is object of class dog, accessing or taking the properties of class animal. So that's how the eating printout is happening on the output. So it's a simple case of single inheritance, one child class and one parent class. So next come to the case of multi-level inheritance. Here I have a class animal. Here I have a class animal declared over in the topmost, and next I have a class dog extends animal, which is accessing the properties of class animal, and I am declaring a third class, which is a child class baby dog, which is accessing the properties of class dog as well as will be able to access properties of class animal. So here I have the main method, and I'm creating an object of class baby dog, and I'm calling the function d.weep, which is a function of the child class. And once I run it, you'll be able to see weeping is accessed. And next I'm calling d.bark, so which is the function of which is a method of class dog, which is also accessed through the object of class baby dog. And I'm also calling the eat function, which is in the superclass or the parent class, which is also being able to access through the child class. So that is multi-level inheritance. So here we have the output weeping, barking, and eating. Next we'll see the case of hierarchical inheritance. So I have a class animal here and a class dog, which is accessing the properties of class animal, and I'm having another main class called cat. So cats and dogs are different, but they all come under the kingdom of animal. So class cat extends animal. It's another class which is accessing the properties of animal but does not access the properties of dog, because in hierarchical inheritance you can have n number of child and there will be only one parent class. And class dog is now accessing the properties of class animal. Class cat is also accessing the properties of class animal. So here I have a class C called of which is object of class cat, and I'm calling the function meow. So C dot meow function is now accessed, and let me print it. So as you can see, the printing is obviously based on hierarchical inheritance. So meow, that function is called, and next I'm calling c dot eat, so which is basically the function of the class animal, and that is also accessed. So child class is able to access one parent class. And now if I try to access the class dog with the object of class cat, I'll be getting an error because hierarchical inheritance does not support the multi-level inheritance. It's having one parent class and n number of child class, and child class will be only able to get the properties of main class, that is superclass. So the one child class cannot access the properties of another child class. So, and thank you for your patience, and I'll see you next videos. Thank you.